Just checking in. Are you anticipating from Bermuda? Just checking in if you're anticipating Ashley and yourself.
They're not here.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
They're not here yet.
Okay. What's great? We are expecting them. Hi, Sarah.
Yeah, hello.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Okay.
I'm not sure whether Kamisha coming today.
Okay. All right. Well, we do as usual. Let's wait a few minutes.
Okay.
All right then. I don't see St. Lucia.
Yes, good afternoon.
Oh, I think it's a good thing I said that. I'm not seeing you. So I thought that's okay. Yeah. As we wait for the others, how are you all?
Good so far.
All right. And has anybody implemented any of the things that we have learned so far for those who have opportunity? And then Jason, you're still not in the classroom, right?
No, I'm not.
Okay. But for the others who are in the classroom, have you had an opportunity to test anything so far that we have done? Don't all shout at once, as the famous expression goes.
Excuse me, please.
Yes.
Background noise.
Okay, I'll see what the source is. Are you hearing me clearly now?
Okay.
Are you hearing me clearly now?
Background noise.
One moment.
Okay, it's clear now.
Yeah, she's muted.
Alright, so now that I'm unmuted, are you hearing that background noise now?
Yes.
Alright, I understand the recommendation is that for everyone, unless you're going to speak, to mute your mics. I think that's why, so that everyone's mics is off unless you're going to speak. So we have to be turning on and off. So right now, are you hearing that background noise?
Yes.
Right. You mute your mic. Alright, and then I'm free to answer me and have to unmute, but just can you hear me? Clear.
Yes.
Right. So apparently whenever I'm speaking, you're going to have to mute your mics. So I'm not quite sure why we're having this because we never did this the last time. Okay. Right, so just our feedback, I've been reliably advised by the technician to ensure mute when not speaking.
Okay.
All right.
You know how to fix it? Well, I have.
So.
Okay. Are you hearing the clear there in St. Lucia?
I'm still in a background noise. I'm not sure what it is. Because I think all the mics are muted, but it's sounding like, I don't know, sound of an airplane and something. I'm not sure.
Yes, and even as you spoke just now, yes, I can hear that there's some interference.
Yeah.
All right, what's this? There is a quick test. Can everyone mute their mics now, please? Alright, we're going to just do the test per site. So everyone keep your mics muted, and when I indicate to your particular site, you're on mute, speak so that we can then get some understanding of where this feedback is coming from, because we've never had this for the past 4 weeks. So, Bermuda, can you hear me clearly? And so now unmute your mics to respond so I can hear, if there's any feedback coming from you.
Hello? It's still a little bit of like an echo or something.
Okay. Has everyone else muted their mics?
We just mute everybody's mics at the same time.
Oh, right. In Bermuda. Alright. Remute yours if there's such a word. Alright, Samuel, your turn. Unmute yours and tell me what you heard as I was speaking with Bermuda.
It's like your voice is clear, but there's a background noise intercepting what you're saying.
Okay. And did you hear Bermuda well?
Not clearly.
Alright, so remute yours again.
Okay.
Thank you. Say no show.
Yes.
Ava? Right. What was the experience like just listening in while your mic was muted?
I'm still hearing the background noise. I think when you mute your mic, we're not hearing the sound.
Right. Alright. Okay. Alright, thanks. Yeah. Alright, let's try one more test again now. So then Bermuda, how does that sound? Are you hearing me? In Bermuda? How does that sound?
It's a little better.
Am I low?
Is it possible that you can change the sensitivity of your microphone? Or like the volume of the microphone or something?
Is it too low?
If you could make it lower, it seems like it's too high.
Alright, thank you for that. Alright, how does it sound now? Bermuda, how does it sound now?
It sounds better.
Alright, clearer.
Clear, yeah.
Alright, Samuel, any more background noise?
It's better now.
Okay. Ava? Are you hearing me, Ava?
Yes, I can hear you.
Alright, so what about the background noise? It's reduced?
It is still there, but not as bad as before.
Alright. Well, thanks for the feedback.
Right.
We just made a few modifications, changes, and let's see how we can get on with it then. Alright, so then welcome everyone. And as you would have seen from the information I sent, as well as from your schedule, today we'll be looking at this idea of learning styles, what they are, and perceptions of students' learning styles, and then what it really means for us as teachers. So the PowerPoint presentation was sent ahead. I don't know if you've all received it or saw it in time, but I will share it with them so that we can all follow along. And we do have 2 or 3 activities to get through for today. But before we start, I know you went through the thing, but what do you understand the term learning style to mean? What does it mean to you all?
Samuel? Yes.
Yes, that's
Yes, I think it's the way students understand, the way students get to know how we teach in a class, like how we get them, like which method is it getting to them with our illustration, demonstration, questioning method, presentation. So which style are we using that normally get to them?
fine. Okay, all right then, thank you. Ava, what's your understanding of learning styles?
I think it's the way that anybody gain knowledge, regardless of what it is, the way they gain it, how they assimilate the information.
Okay, fine. So it's acquisition of information, how they get it done. All right then. Tracy?
Similar to whatever method so that you can understand the material that is being presented.
All right. Vanessa? Then Jason?
Do they learn better by,
Sorry, I'm not hearing you clearly, Tracy.
are they visual learners? Are they active learners? Do they learn better by learning to show or hearing it?
I don't know if I'm the only one, but Samuel, Ava, did you hear Tracy? Samuel, Ava, did you hear Tracy just now? I didn't hear it.
It's breaking up, it's not clear at all.
I'm sure just maybe.
I don't know if it's a mic that you're using, Tracy, but your voice faded out. Sorry about that. But what happened is mic issue today. Oh boy. Try one more time, please. Thank you.
It's actually Vanessa.
Oh, sorry. My apologies. That's why you're laughing. All right. Okay. Yes. Sorry about that.
Sure she knows it's not me.
Yes, Miss Taylor. Go right ahead.
I pretty much said what everybody else did.
Jason, anything new to add? A different dimension?
No, I don't think so. I guess like maybe that you can have one dominant learning style, but all of them, everybody has all of them. So I think it's good to, from a teaching perspective, to incorporate all of them. Well, I mean, obviously,
Right.
and also from a learning perspective, to try and utilize all of them, even though you know you have a dominant one, but just
Okay.
more likely to retain the information, I guess, if you use all styles. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you all very much. And all your contributions are certainly on target. That as we go through this topic, it really is about how students acquire or seem to acquire and perceive knowledge or information that's being shared with them. And as Jason rightly said, as we do this, we want to recognize that students may have different periods of time, different learning styles. I think that one of the articles that I sent you highlighted that we have depending on what we're learning, depending on the age and stage of life, that a learning style might vary. So without further ado, I'm just going to just run through with the PowerPoint because I do know that there is an exercise I would like us all to do. So here we go. All right. All right. So as it says, we're looking at the topic learning styles. Are you seeing the video? I mean the PowerPoint?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody, is Linton come and join you?
Sorry?
Is Linton with you since I can't see
Oh, not
you?
yet.
Welcome, Kamisha. That was you who stepped in?
Yes, it was. Sorry for
Okay,
being
all right.
late.
That's fine. I understand. Sometimes it's challenging. All right, so let's go. So what we want to do today is, as indicated, we want to figure out what is learning style. Look at some of the theories out there, if we can call them that. We want to be able to describe how students view their classrooms in terms of their learning styles and then evaluate what's the big deal. Does it really mean anything for us as teachers? You know, is there value to knowing what learning styles mean and how they are used in the classroom? Because that's a key issue that was raised in one of the articles. So one of the first things we want to do is a brief exercise. Now, I'm going to, instead of putting up the video, because I know that sometimes it's a challenge to hear a video, I'm going to be the video, so to speak, for want of a better expression. So if you can retrieve a blank sheet of paper and something to write on, I'm going to do a kind of test to see what kind of learning styles you have. So in the meantime, just quickly grab, it says you need a pen or pencil, a sheet of paper, blank paper, and I can tell you from now that the instructions I'm going to give, you'll be required to draw what you see, draw what you hear, and at some point you might have to draw along with the video. So let me get up the picture in the meantime. Can you all see the video just now?
Yes.
No.
Alright. Okay. I heard yes and I heard no. Okay, sometimes I'm very good at this and sometimes I'm not so good at it, right? So let's see something here. Just give me 2 seconds. I was wondering why. Almost there. Oh. Almost there. Okay, let's see. My apologies. I omitted this part of it. First, draw a 2-inch by 2-inch square. On the lower right corner of the square, draw a 1. Here's that. I'm doing some juggling. Here. Please bear with me. I omitted a very important ingredient. All right. I'm there now. Okay, let's see if we can do this now. Let me see on the screen now. Let's see. Everybody see what's all right. I want to give you, it says 6 seconds to draw what you see on the screen. And right after you've drawn it, draw the words that come to your mind, that pop into your mind about the experience of having to draw it. So, as you see what's there, draw. I will count start counting in 2 seconds. And then, as soon as you've made your drawing, then just write down some words that describes the experience of having to draw it. So we're drawing now. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So let's write down some words that have come to your mind about just simply having to do that. Everybody understanding so far? Sorry? Did you get the instructions?
Yeah.
Okay. Wonderful. Alright. So you've done the activity, you've written down some adjectives to describe the process. Listen to this one now. You're going to draw what you hear. So at this point it's important you can hear me clearly. This exercise will take us 25 seconds. So as I give the instructions, you're going to draw as I give the instructions. Are you ready? Alright. First, draw a 2-inch by 2-inch square. Of course, you have to approximate that. I'm not going to take a ruler here now. So kind of just use your approximations as scientists. First, draw a 2-inch by 2-inch square. On the lower right corner of the square, on the outside, draw a 1-inch circle. From the top left corner of the square, draw a line intersecting the lower right corner of the square.
Can you repeat the last one?
Sure. From the top left corner of the square, draw a straight line intersecting the lower right corner of the square. And again now, it's asking you to write down the first words, couple of words that come to mind about that process of having to draw that. Alright. I'm still going to try and get the video because I still need to show the next one now. We're going to draw. A video is going to be shown and the person is drawing. And the question is being asked of you to draw along what you see. So I really hope that everyone can see. I'm going to share the video now. So as soon as it comes up, I will say it's there and ask if you can see it. Alright? Where is it? Can you see the screen, Bermuda?
Yes.
Alright. St. Lucia?
Yes, I can see.
Alright. So it says now, we're going to do our final activity, final attempt to figure out what kind of learning style you have. So it's going to, a screen is going to come up and you do draw what you see. Draw along as it's drawn. Here we go. Alright, so there it says that you're to write the first set of words that have come to mind. Alright. It's simple to exercise, but it's an interesting one. Let me just get some debriefing here. How did you feel about the first activity when you had to draw what you saw? Anybody at all?
Well, it was
Oh, wow. That's actually we're getting that feedback from. All right, so let me probably say it one more time. So was that you, Eva or Kamisha?
Tamisha.
All right. Yes, Kamisha. Tell us what was that experience like?
the first one was very clear because
Okay.
I could see exactly what was expected.
What were some of the words you used?
Easy and straightforward.
All right. I suspect that Vanessa shared the same. All right, Vanessa?
Yeah, I had safe, accurate, and clear.
All right, okay. Anyone had any adjective different from what Vanessa and Kamisha just shared? All right, so it seems like more or less that was an easy one. All right, no problem. What about draw what you heard?
I said it was unclear.
What do you? Unclear. All right. Anybody else similar experience?
Slow going.
Slow going. All right. Anybody else?
On my side, it was a bit more challenging than the first one.
All right.
You had to be attentive. You had to follow instruction and depend on the teacher. You're not sure you get the right information.
All right. How did you find it, Tracy?
I thought, I was wondering if it was supposed to look like something. I want things to have a reason. For a reason why we
Point. How about you, Sarah? Okay, that's clear. All right. And so, Kamisha, Ava.
Yes.
Ava and Linton, right? Oh, did Linton catch it? Linton is all right, though?
No, Linton is not there yet.
Alright, so how did you find it then, Ava?
Which one of them?
The second one, the one where you had to draw what you heard. Captain said it was slow going, it was challenging, it needed some kind of purpose or sense, or why were we doing that in the first place?
I guess you didn't know the system. I said it was a bit challenging.
Oh,
You had to get
right. Sorry, right. I'm going to show you what it should have looked like. Let's see if we can get that going. Can you see that?
Yes, you can see.
Right. So it should have looked something like that. So you drew 2x2 square, lower right corner, circle, a line from the top to the bottom, just intersecting the point. What do you think about that? Now that you have seen what you should have heard.
Yeah, that's what I have. This is my line went out of the box.
Right. What do you think about that, Jason?
Pardon?
Is that what you have?
Kind of, except my line extended into the circle.
Right. Somewhere, likewise. Sorry? I'm not hearing. I'm so sorry. Go ahead. Not quite sure we're having some sound issues today, but I can see you. Put your thumb up if that's what you got. All right. But it's interesting that for us, we were saying that's a little bit more challenging. I mean, you appreciate what the implication is as we go on to do this. But what about the last one? Draw along with the video or with the facilitator. How did you find that? Anyone on this one here now? Let me ask Ashley. Let me bring you in on this one. How did you find that while drawing along as the video went along?
It went by really quickly. But I was able to capture, a picturesque or a picture of the image and just reproduce things.
Reproduce it. Okay. All right. How about you, Ava?
Yes, I also have the same thing. It was quick pace.
Right. Now, you cannot get where I'm going. The idea is that for us to see, draw what you see. Person said it was easy, that was okay, straightforward. So you give students images, pictures, diagrams, charts, and even that sometimes, diagrams and charts are not that easily interpreted. But the idea is that visually, it's a little bit more straightforward. Now, what concerns me from doing this activity, every time I do this activity, is number 2. Because number 2 says draw what you hear. And understand that the instructions are a bit ambiguous. And I agree with Tracy, saying, why are we doing this? Why are we draw a square? But think of your learners. Think of doing something new, something that they have not done before. And we're teaching, and they're supposed to be listening to us. But it's all new. So we're making statements like photosynthesis is a process by which plants make their own food. We're saying something like reactions is a combination of reduction and oxidation. Terms that they're not used to, but they're hearing it, and that's the method that the lesson is being delivered. Orally, auditory learners are probably the only ones who will be able to run with what we say. Because it's challenging. Because we have to think about it. What does that mean? Where am I going with this? You know, as Tracy was trying to figure out, why am I going to draw this? Where does it fit in? The challenge today's lesson is trying to say is that, do we really need to make some kind of accommodation for persons who might have these varying learning styles? Now, number three, we're supposed to be meeting the need of those who like to draw. Really, those who can follow along in terms of a kinesthetic manner. So they see something, they can reproduce it. They can do likewise. And so that method is trying to bring out or illustrate how kinesthetic learners actually do much better. If they're allowed to do something. So they follow, they see, and they imitate the action. What do you think of the exercise and then what we just did? How do you evaluate it as a for want of a better word, a rudimentary tool to try and figure out what people's learning styles are? What do you think?
I think from the last one, I think I found it challenging because I was trying to do it step by step. But if I could just watch them do it and not drawing at the same time, then I think it would have been easier. I guess something you can learn from that might be, if you're teaching a kinesthetic learner, maybe you should break it into like a group of like something. But if it was really complicated for a learner to drawing it, then it would have been hard to remember to do it, to imitate. But if I had just, because it was a simple drawing really, I could have just watched the whole thing and then
Right.
I don't know.
Yes, no, that's a keen observation. That's true. I wanted to see that depending on how quick, how fast paced we might be moving, that we might lose some of our learners because if we don't sequence what we're doing, there's a logical order to it. Students might get the big picture, but they don't get the small steps. That's how did you get there? So that's a keen observation that you made. Anybody else? Samuel, what do you think of the exercise? Do you think it somehow is of some value to kind of determine if in fact, you can flesh out what your learning style is?
I think because I was a math teacher, so the drawing are very easy for me to grasp.
Right.
And I know about the upper side, the left side, so it was easy to me.
Okay. So for you didn't find it a challenge because of your own prior experiences?
Yes.
So whether it was having to listen, having to see, having to follow along, you were comfortable across the board?
For now.
Somebody come with something else. How about you, Kamisha? Sorry, you're going in and out. I'm not sure what's the problem. I heard Samuel clearly. Yes, I am. No, you're down. In and out again. Wow. What is this? Can you use the microphone or the same that Samuel uses or no? I don't know. But Samuel's really loud and clear.
Okay, is this better?
Super.
Okay. I was saying that the second one was difficult for me.
Right.
Because I couldn't picture exactly what you wanted. But the other two, because there was a picture, I know exactly what to do. So I just
Right.
it.
Interesting. Okay. Quickly, Ava.
Um, you can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, loud and clear.
Although exercise was fine, but I thought back to the classroom. I'm thinking about my students. Some of my lessons sometimes you don't take these things into consideration, and that you should really have a differentiated lesson to cater for all these learners. All of them will learn the objectives, but you really have to implement different learning styles. Because I learned a while, the easiest part was to draw, because I saw it, but it doesn't say that that's the way to go for all my students. So you really need to take their learning styles and try to bring as much as possible into your lesson, regardless.
Right. No, thank you very much. It really is, to some degree, a bit of an eye-opener to think that, wow, you mean that whenever we speak, which tends to be maybe 80–70% of the classes, that there are learners in that class who might be hearing, but it's not impacting. And in fact, one of the articles one of them that I was reading, and I'm not sure if it was one that I sent to you, it actually said that don't be surprised if you have just said something and you're asking students, what you understand from it, or ask a question. And said, I didn't hear, or no, they didn't understand. And he said, but we just said it. There's an assumption that having said it, having declared it, having uttered it, that the students have perceived, have understood what we have said. And today's class is really looking at that, looking at it a bit more deeper at, yes, this thing called learning styles, but at the same time, what value does it have, and how can we as teachers make our input to try and accommodate for it. Now, off the top of our heads, obviously, in our classes, we have, as Samuel pointed out, even from using him as an example, learners who, it doesn't matter what you bring. You could bring something visual, you could bring in something for them to do, you could speak from beginning to the end. They will learn. Obviously, as we are in a small class, we will have learners also who will have difficulty following a sequence of things we're going too fast. And again, even from our little small group here, if we could use us as a sample of our larger classes, that just hearing is not sufficient. So what do the theories say about all this? Let's continue with our presentation here at this point. All right, so here we go. That was what we did. You have all contributed at the very beginning an idea of what learning style meant. And I have around 2 definitions on this that you would have read already. And it simply says, that this one isn't so simple. Although it says, I said simply, but this one isn't so simple. It says, it's a composite of characteristic cognitive, so that's the thinking, affective, that's the emotion, and physiological, and that's the capacity to learn now. It's a composite of all these factors that serve as some kind of indicator as to how the learner will actually receive, perceive, and interact with what's going on around him or her. So there are many things that's going on to determine whether the learner is really being impacted by what we are doing. Whether we are showing a video, or we're doing a practical activity, or whether we ask them to write in their own words something, or they're just simply taking notes that we are dictating. The learning style in this definition is really a combination of thinking, emotions, and just the capacity to learn, how they themselves interact, or sorry, how they impact how the learner will receive information. A different definition is one proposed by some other researchers, And theirs was a little simpler. The learning style, they said, was the way in which each learner begins to concentrate, process, and retain new and difficult information. Because basically that's what happens in a class. If we're doing a class for the first time, we should have an introductory activity that makes the connection for the students. Something that will connect what we're about to tell them as new to connect to something that they already know. It's very important. If we throw the students out in the deep end, today we are going to learn about the atomic theory. The atomic theory is da 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 da. That's kind of hard. We need to provide them with something that they can hold on to. So as you begin to build the information, or if it's a problem solving thing, as they begin to try and figure out some answer or some solution, they must be able to relate it to something that they already know. Now the theories that we'll be briefly looking at today, they basically have some similarities, and some have just simply expanded on what others have done. And I know that as scientists, as we read through this research, but didn't we just finish reading this? It's not what that person did. But you'll find in the humanities, they tend to have to try and improve and fine-tune just even a little bit of information that was already there. So I know that when you read through, you say, but they're all saying the same thing, but they're just trying to build on what someone else did. So the most popular learning style theorist is from Neil Fleming, 1987. And we'll look into what he did. Kolb, he revised his, I think it's actually 3 times, 1976, 1984, and a more recent one, if you can call it recent, 10 years ago, in 2005. And we just quickly go through his. And Honey and Manford, somehow, before Kolb went into 2005, decided that he was going to bring another dimension, but he was trying to modify what Kolb did in 1984. So let's just quickly, briefly look at what these guys are talking about. Neil Fleming, he's from Australia. I had the pleasure of meeting him some years ago. I mean, it was really good to have met someone who has written some kind of theory. But it's pretty simple. And he created this acronym VAG, which describes what we most are familiar with. Visual learners, auditory learners, those who read write, and kinesthetic learners. And we're very familiar with what those are. Kolb in 1984 decided that there's a little bit more to just simply saying that you can hear, see, or do well, what's going on in your classes. And he created these 4 categories: the converger, the diverger, assimilator, and accommodator. Just looking at what they are, can you identify one yourself? And 2, do you think you can identify your learners, any of your learners, just from this definition, these definitions here? So just spend a few minutes, just reading them, if you haven't read them as yet, or to refamiliarize yourself. Can you identify yourself based on Kolb's original definitions? And then can you identify some of your learners? All right. So, can you identify yourself in any of these statements by Kolb? Anybody out there?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right.
I think for me, number 4, accommodated.
All right. All right. Hands on. All right. Anybody else? Oh no, before we move on, can you identify any of your learners based on what his descriptions are given here?
Sorry?
Right, I was asking you, Ava, if you can identify any of your learners. Can you see any of your learners in your classroom? Do you see any of these being exhibited?
Yes, yes. I think you have a group in each conveyor diverter. You have groups of students who fall within these groups.
Okay, fine, fair enough. Anybody else who think they have identified themselves, what their learning style is according to Cole?
I think I'm maybe number 1,
All right.
but I also feel like number 3, the aspect of putting information into concise and logical form. I think I like to do that too.
All right. So according to Cole, a learner finds practical uses for ideas and theories, problem solving, but you also like this logical way of presenting information. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Tracy?
I think I'm a mix of 3 and 4.
All right.
I like to put things in logical.
Right.
But I'm not interested in the track idea.
Yeah.
I like them, but I do. I guess I just want
Okay. All right. Anybody else would like to share this point? Well, let me tell you who I think I am from what Cole describes here. I think I like I'm more of number 1, and to some degree number 3. I don't necessarily like practical hands-on as much as I'm in this field. And then certainly it's interesting, but I'm not an observer. I want to still be able to get involved. So I think I'm more number 1 than I am anything else. And you notice it said at the bottom that certainly a learner can exhibit more than 1, and we have discovered that from ourselves, but 1 usually tends to dominate over the other. Alright, so Cole identified these 4 basic categories: converger, diverger, assimilator, accommodator. But then he revised that a bit, and he created these 4 other categories, trying to build on what he had before. So he has a concrete experience, reflective observation as another learning style that could be exhibited by persons, abstract conceptualization, and active experimentation. And these really, he then identified how those learners learn. So for concrete experience, they learn by doing and acting. They need something to hold on to. They need something to touch. They need something to participate in actively. So the concrete experience, so we take them for a field trip. We do the labs. They make something. Concrete experience, they learn by doing and acting. Reflective observation. Assimilate learning through observing and reflecting. Now remember before, he had identified the observer. The observer was a diverger, a learner who is imaginative and prefers to observe rather than take action. And here, he's identifying that is what he calls reflective observation. You assimilate learning by observing and reflecting. Abstract conceptualization. They develop concepts through thinking and reflecting. And finally, active experimentation. They plan to test new concepts by doing and move towards concrete experience stage of the cycle. Now he had this as a cycle, and we're going to see how he has revised even this. So here CE means concrete experience. So they plan to test new concepts by doing and moving towards, learning and doing all over again. You will, as you have already identified, all of these guys will be in your classes. Question: if you put persons in a group and you have this information, what would happen if you had a lot to do and you put a group of persons together, but the persons that were placed together in the group were all reflective observers?
Nothing would get done.
Simple. Very good. Really. Because they will be busy, as it says, observing maybe others, reading the manual, looking at the instructions, but no one is getting up to do. No one is actually actively doing something. Then we could ask, what if there are all persons who relied on learning by concrete experience? What do you think would happen?
Could fight over who.
Everybody wants to do. Everybody would want to do. I want to light the Bunsen burner. I want to, and maybe at some point, yes, they're learning by doing and acting, but maybe there isn't much time of much reflecting. The reason I point that out is because even for me, I found that recently. I had a group of boys, and they were all thinkers. They were the kind that were abstract conceptualizers. Every lab was going on, everyone was participating, they were getting their things done. I think the activity was the effect of pH on enzyme activity. And I didn't realize that this group just kept going over the method and were talking about what was to be done. No one did anything. And it just so happened that they were in the same group. I didn't know that. I mean, that was an eye-opener for me. That, okay, I think I need to separate these guys for the next time we do something like that. But it was rare. I've never noticed that before. But there it was. A group of learners who were all learning by simply just thinking and reflecting. But no one in there was acting. But Cole didn't stop here. He decided that he was going to go a little further, and approximately a few years later, in 2005, almost 20 years later, right, he added, and he wanted to kind of point out how there's this continuum. There's never a discrete, yes, you learn by this only, or you learn by that one, but there's this dynamic that's occurring among the learning styles. So if we were to process this now in terms of the two main dimensions, in the horizontal dimension, it has processing continuum, and it's talking about how we do things. While the perception continuum, which is crisscrossing it, in the vertical domain, it says how we think about things. It says either we're doing or we're thinking. And then he created these different groupings where persons are doing a combination of both. So concrete experience. Oops.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Going back to learning through observation and reflecting, I don't necessarily agree with what you just said. I'm getting a lot of feedback from that. I would think that will depend on the students and what is it you want them to. Because I don't think necessarily something wrong with observation perspective. For example, if we give a group of preschoolers to go outside to observe people caterpillar eating the leaves, or giving birth to something that is age appropriate. What is wrong with observation or see the growth of fungi on thread or something? And then you ask them question, they'll be observing, then they reflect. They saw that and they give you maybe an oral synopsis of what happened and what they think. Is there anything wrong per se with that? Is what they learned.
Right. Let me try
As
to.
opposed to a larger group or maybe students who have a higher grade. So I think you might gear your activities to in terms of age group and your objectives. So it's nothing per se. They won't get anything done. It's just that they will present it in a way that you might. That's age appropriate. I'm thinking in terms of young children, 15 and stuff. Just so how many? Like another example. Like, you have students who are there and they say, go and count for me how many green bags are there. Look at it and see how many green, and come back and tell me. Then go back to how many red bags are there. So you have an observation. 5 green bags, 5 red bags, and stuff like that. So good observation.
Right. I totally agree with you. I wasn't making the point that it was any less a method of acquiring information. I was really making a point about groupings, about if persons, especially for group work, you would want at least to have a mix of persons who have different learning styles that would enrich the group. But you're correct. For all of these different what's called aspects or different learning styles are equally important. So whether you learn by doing and acting, at some point you need to be able to reflect on what it is that you have done. Whether you are a great observer, of course at some point you need to be able to act upon what you have observed. So I agree with you. I wasn't trying to say that that was any less a learning style in comparison to. I was really just talking about groups. That can you imagine a group with everyone having the same learning style and having to achieve a particular task? So I take your point quite well. That of course to be a reflective observer, that's a very important skill, as if I would want to put it that way, in terms of acquiring new information. But I wasn't suggesting that it was any less a learning style than the others. It was just about the groups. That's okay?
Yes, so somebody said nothing gets done. I just thought of that something might get done actually.
Right. No. And we weren't trying to put that. As I said, it's about groups. And the reason I brought it up is because I didn't even think that if I were to put persons together, that was possible. If I'm randomly grouping persons, how in the world did they all get like that? I mean, it's not something that I had thought of before. It just worked out that way. Interestingly enough. All right. Anything else? Anybody else want to comment? I heard someone else.
Yeah, I'm finding it really difficult to follow this with the background noise and the feedback. I don't know if we can try and mute the mics again to see if we can make it a little bit better. I couldn't understand anything that last person was saying.
Okay.
Yeah, especially Cleveland, particularly down there.
All right.
I don't know why. A lot of feedback.
Yes, I know now you are starting to go in and out as well. All right, so let's take this from the top then. Everyone mute the mics and we'll go 1-1 and see if we can identify what the problem is. So I mute mine now.
Last time?
Sorry?
Did Dominique mute their mics last time? Because it didn't show up as muted on the screen.
Oh, okay. All right, everyone mute your mics now then. Let's work with that first. So Dominica, you have to mute your mic. I don't know if I understand what Tracy is saying now. When we mute, we see a symbol, but we're not seeing that for you. So Dominica, thumbs up if your mic is muted. Oh, okay, fine. The symbol isn't there, but you said you have muted it, so we work with that. And St. Lucia, we can't see you, so Let's say that you're muted. So everyone we're going to mute, and then I go 1-1. So I'm muting mine now. All right. So Dominica, can you hear me clearly? Are you hearing the feedback? And let me hear what you sound like.
Okay, we are hearing you clearer than, well, a little bit clearer than we were hearing you before.
What people were saying, because we're getting like echo and feedback when people were talking.
Right, and now that's what I'm not hearing from you. Before somebody you were clear, but now I'm hearing that kind of echo, delayed, speech coming from that microphone. Mute it again, please. Bermuda, your turn. Let's see what's going on here. I'm not quite sure.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
Perfect. Tracy, how do we sound? How do I sound? Sorry.
Loud and clear.
How did Samuel sound when we were talking just now to you guys?
I feel like it's about the same.
Sorry?
I personally felt like it was about the same as you. Not too bad.
Okay.
St. Lucia.
I'm still hearing. I heard actually really loud and clear just now, but Jason, I'm hearing you going kind of in and out, and that little feedback, I hear it.
Yeah.
I probably wasn't speaking directly into the microphone. It could have been that.
I think so, because it sounds great now. All right.
Okay.
All right, so mute that again for me. St. Lucia, your turn.
Yes, it's still in a bit static. People cannot hear us.
Wow. And you, is there a technician by you, St. Lucia? Because it sounds awful, for one wonderful word.
Yes, it's in the room. I went to call it.
All right, so how do we sound? How do we individually sound?
I'm still hearing a bit static.
For Dominic as well, when Samuel spoke?
Everybody.
Everybody.
And you still cannot see us?
No, I cannot see you.
Okay.
So I don't know if we can get some assistance there.
It's working.
All right. What we'll do, how we'll proceed is that we'll keep our mics muted, and when we're ready to speak, we unmute our mics. I think that's probably the best way we're going to, and see if we can eliminate this. Although, obviously, it's when we're speaking that we hear the feedback, but let's try that just in case. I'm really not quite sure what's the problem here. All right. So,
Vanessa pointed out that it could be in St. Lucia that the microphones are too close to the speakers.
Oh.
Or something.
Right. So when your technician comes, just indicate to him what's happening.
He's trying to fix it. He's there.
All right then. So we'll continue. Right. So if you look at Code's revised version of the learning styles, he has this two continuums: how we think on the vertical and how we do things on the horizontal. Basically, he has kept the same. He has now combined everything. So you have a concrete experience at the top, and that's about feeling, how people feel about what they're experiencing. So we go to a farm. How do they feel about having to go to a biogas farm or something like that? Something, so those experiences are important for them. How they receive information. On the other continuum, on the opposite end, oops, we have those who are busy thinking about what they're experiencing. So you have the concrete experience, those who are it's the more, one moment please, one moment everyone, just stick a pin.
You muted the mic.
I just have a side chat with Craig here, the technician here at Mona. Just like that, just bringing up to speed what has been happening. So I know I muted the mic. Sorry about that.
Right too.
Two more seconds, hold on.
Say 2 more seconds. She's talking to you about getting mics.
St. Lucia dropped off.
Right, interesting. St. Lucia seems to have gone off air. Are we hearing clearly, everybody else?
Yeah.
Right. I see St. Lucia is back, but we'll push on. Are you hearing now, Ava?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Still have potential feedback going, but we'll push on.
Okay.
Cool. Alright. So the opposing continuum is how people think about things. Again, on the processing, what we do, we're either doing active experimentation or we're watching reflective observation. And the point codes want to make is that you can be on any part of this continuum. You can be either reflective observation, concrete experience. You notice he has these eyes going around. He believes that for the full learning experience, we have to provide all of these opportunities for our learners. So this is his thinking. Concrete experience. Give them something that's in there, if it's not already in their schema, if they have never heard of a redox reaction before, do something that they experience it for real. You know, put something on potato and let them see some kind of reaction. Based on that real experience, concrete experience, they get the opportunity to watch and observe. So he's moving along, and having watched and observed, he thinks that we should give them an opportunity to think about it, abstract conceptualization. Having thought about it, we then give them an opportunity to do something now on their own, test out the theory, active experimentation, and then finally, based on what they have done, they should now come up with some kind of conclusion which comes out of a concrete experience. What do you think about that? It's called Cobb cycle. He really thinks that this learning style thing, it's not just one or the other. All of these have an important role to play. Do you think that makes sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Because then we can't say that, oh, I learned visually, so I'm not going to listen to it. Or I learned by doing, so I am not going to write any notes, so I'm not going to listen. And it's an important aspect that's bringing in to the whole conversation about learning styles. So I kind of added a little bit, this was just to make things a little bit clearer for us. So for concrete experience, they feel more than they think, they're good at relating to others, and we're going to learn more about this intuition. So in a group, you find that you have these persons, even in group work, that you find them kind of more concerned about their own emotions, and they think, no, it's hot, or I don't think that this is where we're supposed to be going. We should be doing something else. So you find those persons in your groups or in your classroom. Watch and observe. They tend to appreciate exposure to different points of view. The abstract conceptualizers think more than they feel, have a scientific approach to problem solving as opposed to a more artistic approach. And if persons are predominantly active experimenters, they have an active role in influencing others as well as situations. They welcome practical applications rather than reflective understanding. Now, those were just expanding on the discrete learning styles by themselves. But what Colby is saying is that when we are in our classrooms, we have to bear these things in mind. We have to bear in mind that there are persons in there whose emotions we can't ignore. And what do I mean by that? Someone will come in and they say, sir, do we have to do this today? You kind of get an idea that, they're not in the mood, they don't want to do that, they want to be somewhere else. And sometimes we have to kind of accommodate them, not saying that, no, we don't have to do that today, but just be aware that those learners are not necessarily trying to make their life difficult. They're not trying to be feisty and trying to be rude and just trying to escape work. But for them, how they're feeling at that time is seemingly overriding what it is that you want to do in the class at that time. So the concrete experience, there's this tug of war. There's a concrete experience in how they feel, and then there's what they're experiencing within them, as well as what it is that you want to create, what it is that you are going to be doing in your classes to kind of override their concrete experience. We don't want to ignore it. For the reflective observation, you have persons who will just simply just watch, they'll be quiet, they won't necessarily be participants in the way you would like them to be, but you want to be aware that they are in your classroom. What Colby is saying that as we accommodate how persons feel, that they will move into this mode of observing what's going on. And then eventually we want them to start thinking about what they have observed and then going around. And he says each time they do something, they will have their feelings or their emotions or their experiences will have changed, and they go back around to watching, observing, thinking, doing, feeling, watching, observing, thinking, doing. So he calls this the Kolb's cycle. He thinks that this gives a better understanding of what the dynamics are in our classes or in any learning environment. I'm all full, I know, but something still to think about. Now, Honey and Mumford, I know we'll come up to the break, but let us see if we can push to 5:30, and I will move on after that. Honey and Mumford, this looks familiar. Concrete experience. Ta-da! Reflective observation. Been there, right? Abstract conceptualization. Active experimentation. Look back at what we are coming from. Same thing. Same thoughts. But he now has a different take on it in terms of descriptions for each category. He thinks for the concrete experience, it's more about the activists, those who want to do rather than experience. Prefers doing and experiencing. Those are the doers. Reflectors observe and reflect. Nothing new there that he has brought to his theory. But he's saying the abstract conceptualizers, those who like to think, those are our theorists. Those are the ones who come up with concepts, with explanations, identifying relationships to our scientific information. Then he uses a term that we're more used to, a pragmatist, for the active experimenter, the realist, the one who would have a goal, try to see if things will work. So you can see the comparison between the two theories, Kolb and Honey and Mumford. Now, Felder and Silverman, they again looked at the literature, made their own observations, and thought there's still something else. There's still another dimension that's not being explored in this learning style. Yes, we're talking about visual, auditory, read, write, kinesthetic. Then yes, we turned it up a notch, and we thought that you have those who are doers, the thinkers, the reflectors, the conceptualizers, the ones who are more about feeling a concrete experience. But he saw that there was this continuum between how persons perceive information. And although I have the word sensory versus intuitive, when you read the article, they're really not talking about one versus the other. It's really kind of moving between the two. So sensory versus intuitive really talks about how people perceive information or receive information. Visual versus verbal, we're used to that one. Inductive versus deductive is how they reason, how they think about the information. So inductive, moving from a specific concrete example and then making a generalization, or making generalizations and then from that deduce what it means for a specific instance. Active versus reflective, we have come across those terms in the previous two learning style theories, but this one impinges on what Jason had said earlier, sequential versus global. You have learners who need things in sequence, logical, step by step. They see the step, they need the steps in order to get to the big picture. And then you have global learners who see the big picture and they can't even sometimes tell you how they reach there. Have you ever seen that in any of your classes or experienced that? Especially the last one.
Yes, I have.
Right. Sequential versus global. So you ask them why did they say that? And then you just see the answer right away. And so Felder and Silverman thought that this was worth bringing to the public, that there's still another dimension to the concept of learning styles. And the rest of the PowerPoint here, we're not going to go through this because they already have it, but he was just describing for each one of them, moving from sensory to intuitive, what those learners look like. But I want us to look at something in the very last two. It says here, for the sensory, they may be careful but slow, while the intuitive may be quick but careless. Have you seen learners like that? Have not anyone come across those learners? They're meticulous. They want to make sure that the line is drawn perfectly. They erase their drawings over and over. They have very neat notes. They don't want to miss a word. But at the same time, you can't move. They're behind. They're behind in taking the notes. They're behind in completing the task. While there are others who say, miss, sir, I'm finished. But when you look a whole lot of things that they've left out or mistakes that they have made.
Yes, we come across them in the classroom, yeah.
Right. And so what Feldman is saying is that could be what we're looking at are two different types of learners. Those who are sensory, they're practical, they like facts, they problem solve, but the other group will be the ones who are bored easily, don't like repetition, and they want to just get on with it. So they're quick, but a bit careless. We understand this one is easy enough. Verbal, visual, written word versus images and pictures. Inductive, deductive, as I said before. Inductive, they don't mind starting with a specific example and then build upwards. Deductive, they want the big picture there, and also big picture there with principles, and then they move to the specific. Active, reflective, we spoke about that. And sequential, global, we can see what that is. All right, we'll take a break quickly here, and this will be what we'll be going into next. We'll look at the various learning styles, what they mean, what the different theories have, thought learning styles are. But the question is, how do we teach now? What is the implication for us as teachers? Do we consider what's going on, or do we ignore it? So see you in, let's see if we can do this in 10 minutes, and we'll be right back at that time to continue.
Okay.
All right.
It's nice and tasty over here now.
Oh, why do we teach to be on our own?
I guess, yeah. They're probably trying to fix it. Did that go off, Ash?
I'm clueless. My head was down in my phone.
Okay. Ooh, I'm hoping it's a little easier to hear on the next. All right. Ooh. And then what, I keep getting all these courses mixed up. It was this course that we had the lesson plan for, correct? Yes. You guys haven't heard anything about yours yet?
Lesson plan, yeah.
She's probably, no, because we're still there, aren't we? But everybody else is gone.
I gotta send her code, to fix hers, but where to do?
She muted it. See on the down bottom?
Yeah, she's muted. Look at the farm out.
Where are the other two gone?
Got rid of them, they're making too much noise. They're making way too much noise. Get rid of you. I hope we're muted. Great.
Wow.
Okay, back on track. Just quick question to you. Is Linton here? Is Linton come?
Yes, I'm there. Yes, I'm there.
Yes. I like it. They will say it. Finally. Welcome, Linton.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So you notice I was quiet. You don't want any questions coming into your head. Keep quiet. All right. So let's resume. So here we are. So this kind of speaks to what we're going to go to next. So here we have the teacher and the students, and the teachers kindly telling the students is kindly telling the teacher what she expects. And it really begs the question that comes next, that are learning styles relevant for teaching and learning? Further, in 1993, they did some studies, and part of their conclusion, I know you have the article. I think you have the article. Yes. It was entitled Reaching the Second Tier, Learning and Teaching Styles in College Science Education. And I picked out some things that I thought was the most relevant to our discussion today. And further concluded that students whose learning styles are more compatible with the teaching style of their lecturers retained information longer, applied it more effectively, and had better attitudes even after the subject was taught. In other words, they were simply saying that depending on how teachers taught, it might match how students learn. And the entire article really went on to speak about how if teachers teach in a particular way, ignoring learning styles, then especially at the college level, students get frustrated and they will leave the actual pursuit of a science degree and go somewhere else. They'll just do something else. And that's why he called it or entitled it Reaching the Second Tier, that they will just go on to do something else, a second choice, rather than maintain their original desire of pursuing a college degree in science, and that we lose them. What do you think about such a conclusion? Now, are you hearing me? Did you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So you're processing it, and in a few you will all respond, right? What do you think about this statement? What are your views, ideas?
Samuel? Yes, I think as a teacher, we normally use different teaching techniques to get to all students in the class. So someone like me, as I'm talking, I'm writing, and I always try to demonstrate. So as a teacher, I think I always try to see those who hear it, those who want to see, and those who want like a picture. I'm trying to put all of that in my teaching. So that statement is new to me.
Right, and remember the article is really about college science, so at the university level that you're talking about. Because why do you think that the challenge is greater at the university level? From your own experiences, why do you think that there's a greater challenge there? What's the usual mode of teaching?
Any object in class.
That's you, Kamisha?
Yes, that's me.
Right. All right. So, Kamisha, you go ahead. Everybody else mute the mics. Go ahead, Kamisha.
I was saying in university, it's normally in the form of a lecture. So the students, for example, if it's somebody who has to see what the teacher, what the lecturer is saying, they will not get the opportunity to see any drawings or anything like that. You just listen, take your notes, and that's it.
Right, right. And that's a chance. But was someone saying something also from Bermuda?
I just said that. I just said lecture. Jason is Jason.
Oh, Jason? I only heard the first part, nothing more.
I was just gonna say the same thing, basically, that the style of teaching is mainly lecturing.
Right. Okay, fine. So both of you agree. I think I agree with that. However, do you think that at the secondary level, now, this is for everybody, not just you, Jason, at the secondary level, that we too at times might fall into that trap of just giving notes, telling to go home and read, or make their own notes, come back, we'll discuss it. Do you find that there are times when maybe inevitably when we're falling short on time to complete our precious syllabuses, that we resort to that, giving them lots of handouts to cover our topic, and we say that when you come to class, we discuss it. What do we sometimes feel that we are pushed into that direction if we're out of time?
If anybody says no, yes, I think so. It happens. It happens
Right.
all the time.
It happens, and it's something that we have to look out for, because of course it happens. As I rightly said, if anybody says no, because there are times when we're out of time. These fancy, elaborate way of bringing the lesson across using music and drawings and hands-on and all of that, doing problem solving, canon to somewhere for a future. They're enriching, they're important, they're accommodating, we're mixing for all the learning styles, but we have a challenge that we do have a syllabus to meet. And as teachers, we don't want to fall into the trap of another finding from Felder, as it says here, that teachers tend to favor their own learning styles. So if you're a visual learner, you find that you find all of the charts, all of the diagrams. Your test is 90% diagrams and maybe one or two written words. If you are more auditory, you might find that you're giving your classes more presentations to do, running debates. I mean, it's interesting that there's this correlation that the way we ourselves, our own learning styles, we tend to teach to our own learning styles. And we must be mindful of that. John said that a match between student style and teacher style will need to improve student attitudes and higher academic achievement. And that's understandable. So if a teaching style is by lecturing and a student learns auditorily, that's a perfect match made in heaven, so to speak. If a student is a more visual and the teacher likes to bring videos, they like to bring charts and maps, have them read stuff, then again, another beautiful match made in heaven. So Don is proposing that once a student's preferred style of learning matches a teacher's preferred style of teaching, that those students will do well. But as Samuel pointed out earlier, and as I think Ava said, in our classes, we have all of these learning styles, students who exhibit all these learning styles. So the key thing is to ensure that we mix it up, that we ourselves teach using various methodologies various strategies that will overcome this. So let's look at some scenarios of, I think, 3 cases where we can see how students' learning styles, how do they handle themselves in classrooms based on the teaching style. Oops. So let me get the case studies up. Did you get the case studies itself? I was trying to remember. Alright, here it is. Mhm. Alright. Can you see the screen? Did you get this in your
No, I don't think so.
Okay, alright. So read the case study and there are 3 questions being asked after. But can everyone see? Is there anyone who's not seeing a case study? It says case study number 1.
We can see here.
So we're alright, great. So let's spend 5 minutes looking at that. You can work in your groups and then work in your groups as you are. Okay, so this one's pretty straightforward. What is Mark's learning style? Bermuda, what is Mark's learning style?
Visual.
Visual?
That's our concern.
Is it only visual, you think? What do you think, St. Lucia? Do you agree with Bermuda?
He said visual. So.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Not only.
So what do you see is another learning style that's coming out or preference?
He does well.
I think also visual.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's saying something about identifying the keywords and purposes of the page. So he's looking the same.
What type of learner is he not?
Auditory.
I think a rewrite.
Verbal.
Sorry.
So, okay, so I heard auditory coming through from Jason, then I heard someone else saying he's not.
Yes, okay.
Yes, go ahead, Eva.
No, I'm saying yes, you're correct. He's not auditory learning because identify some notes and stuff.
Right, right. So you're using information from the case, right? Fine. So you are correct. He seems to be. He says he does well when tested on materials read in the book. So it seems to be, if you're depending on your or classification that you're using, it seems to be visual or read right. But certainly he's struggling. And in a music class, of all the classes, he definitely needs to be able to hear what's coming at him. The question is, his learning style, you say, is visual. The learning style challenge he has is hearing and listening to notes and stuff. So auditory, he's having a problem. How can we help now? How can he wants to do music? He wants to learn to play the guitar. He is in a music class. How can we help him? How can we help him to overcome this challenge? What do you think are some practical ways in which he could really, improve?
Maybe.
Well,
This is Ashley from Bermuda.
Yes, go ahead.
Maybe produce some kind of PowerPoint recording, so he can record the tempos and he can record the specific keys, and maybe associate a picture or whatever. So if it's a quarter of a tempo or whatever, I don't know how you measure a tempo, but if say it's a quarter, so he can have that tempo running, and on the screen have a quarter, like 1/4, so that you can see the quarter and he's taking it in at the same time as he's listening to it, so that when he actually hears it, he'll be like, okay, yeah, that's a quarter. Maybe he'll close his eyes and like he'll be going through the slides in his mind, because he's a visual learner. So that's what I was thinking.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Anybody else?
I was going to say basically the same thing. That he could do some assignments on his own where he plays the music and gets a visual aid. So if it plays a chord or whatever the case may be, he could see it on the screen and make the connection.
Right. Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
You can download a YouTube video, just look at it.
Go again?
You can download a YouTube video, just look at it.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right then. And what you're all saying is that he needs to associate. He needs to associate what he's hearing visually. So that is one way in which we can help our students. If we recognize that students are having some kind of issue between the learning styles, how new information is, how any information, whether new or otherwise, is being presented to them. What we want at the end of today's class is to be able to empower them to say that, okay, you're reading, but your mind is wandering, you're not concentrating, or maybe you need to do this. So that's what we want to look at. In this particular instance, here is someone who is more visual, but then they're not able to hear or differentiate between tones and keys, tempo, and like you, Ashley, I'm not quite sure what quarter is, but you're all making very good suggestions that he now has to associate what he's hearing with what he can see, something that he can interact with in a different way. Because remember that when we look at the definition of learning style, is how they perceive or acquire knowledge or new information. So this was one suggestion or one case that was looking at how someone is in a class struggling, doing well in one aspect but not doing well in the next. Alright, let's look at this one now. Might have to bring it down just a little bit. I'm just going to take off the heading. Can you read it? Yeah, should be able to. Let me just shrink it a little. Oops. Sorry about that. Just wanted to get everything in one go. So you're saying 3 questions? Oh, sorry. I was going to say, you're saying 3 questions apply. What is, well, in this case, Pinky. What is Pinky's learning style? What is her challenge and how can we help her?
She's she's a non-reader writer.
Yeah, she can hear it. The microphone is so sensitive. Oh, right.
Okay. I think you need to. Just for her.
Verbally good.
Like, I feel like that'd be her responsibility. Pinky. Yeah, she can read them. You can read the instructions out loud. Read the instructions out loud. But she's gonna hear it saying it. Record it. Alright, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, are you ready?
Yes, you're ready.
Okay. So, again, so let's, I'm going to zero in now on one of the sites. So, Samuel, you take this one. You're able. What transpired in your discussion? What kind of learning style you think is being exhibited by Pinky?
Yeah, I think he's more of a listening student, auditory, like to listen and remember anything taught when he's in the class and listening.
Okay. So Eva, what challenges does she have in her current class based on the evidence that's there? You can use anything from there's kind of.
Yeah, to read and write.
I meant to say commission. Sorry, I moved you, right? I don't know what to say, Lucia. Sorry about that. Right, so commission. And commission calls, not responding because there's actually her name. So commission.
Yeah.
What is the struggle? Right. Samuel volunteered part of it. But what's the struggle based on the evidence there? You can use things from the case to support your answer. What's the struggle? What's Pinky's struggle?
Well, I think her struggle is more of a visual one because it says that she reads the material, but she doesn't really understand what she reads.
Okay.
However, when it's class and she listens to the lectures, she gets everything on point. So her problem would be visual. She's more of an auditory learner. Verbal learner, sorry.
Why did you retract from saying she is auditory?
Sorry?
Are you saying that you said she's auditory and you said sorry, verbal? So is she or is she not auditory?
Well, to me, auditory, she is auditory because she learns from listening.
Right. Okay. Do you have students like this that they're acing the the non-practical side of things? They're doing well. You can quiz them on what they've done in the class, but when it comes to their labs, their SBAs, they are really, you have a lot of empty spaces in the lab books. Anybody experiencing such students?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
Actually, we complain a lot about that because for CX, we now have to give them a printout of the lab in advance. So they get to read through and then come to the lab and they're just supposed to do the lab. But we find that a lot of times, some of the students would come and they would just sit like it's the first time they're seeing a lab. They have no idea what to do, and then we have to go over the instructions with them before they can start doing anything.
Right. That's interesting. Thanks for sharing that because it's something that I wondered that if we should do at my school as well, if we should create like a manual. We haven't done that. When they come, we just give them the instructions, carry them through the steps, and that's it. But we haven't had the challenges in them getting up and starting and going. But there are other challenges just simply doing the experiment. And from this case study, you realize that the challenges seems now that we can understand what's going on. She's not able to follow the instructions, and you're saying that that's what's happening with your students. You expect them to read, come, and just, the apparatus is there, all the materials and equipment, just follow what has been said. And you're wondering, what's the difficulty? What's the challenge? I mean, there are many things. Samuel, what do you think are some of the challenges why students are given a manual? Because it actually says here the lab requires a lot of reading, as the students are required to read through the lab manual directions. So you're doing a lab, Samuel. You're given them beforehand, like before speaking, Ava Kamisha.
Kamisha.
Kamisha. They have the pre-printed lab, and you expect them to come in and just perform it. Why can't they add 2 centimeter cube to this test tube and then label it A? Go on to label B and C accordingly. Then, what do you think is a problem, Samuel?
Yes, considering I guess the student cannot visualize the information. So it's what they read because they cannot, like they don't understand what they read because it's like abstract to them. It's not like a concrete thing that they can relate to.
Right. Well, that's a key point. And so now, they are performing as we would have liked them to in the lab for, in this case for Pinky. She's more auditory, so she likes to hear what's going on, and then she can do well with the theory. But she's struggling with that. How can we help Pinky? How can we help her to overcome her challenge? She's auditory. She can just read. Sorry, she can be in the hear every word that the teacher said. Remember it. But when it comes to reading the manual, reading the notes, doing the activities, how can we help her? So that person will now go to Linton and Ava. How can we help Pinky?
See that she's an auditory listener, and so again, we can probably have an experiment, 2 videos, or maybe have her do some practical starting, a little bit of information to be so completely experiments to help build up a
Sorry, 1 minute there. You're breaking up. I don't know hearing clearly. So I don't know if you need to adjust the microphone in relation to the other things on the desk or something.
You ready now?
Yeah.
I was saying in terms of helping her because she likes to listen. She's a auditory learner. We can probably have a look at little videos and give her information in small chunks. Maybe it's too much, it's too overwhelming for her. So she can probably give her a little handout or something, do a simple experiment, and then as time goes on, give her more a little at a time to build up confidence, and then she'll be able to follow the instruction.
Okay. Thank you. What do you think about that, Linton? Anything to add to what Ava said?
Well, I'm agree with what Ava said, but I also believe that she should be doing like, let's say, like minor experiments at home, and she should be taking records of it.
Okay. All right. Bermuda, anything that you would like to add to that, Tracy? Because I know that you're in the lab, so is there anything that you can suggest that would help such students like Pinky?
I would have her lab partner read to her when it was her turn to do something.
Ah, okay. Very important. That is a very important ingredient because regardless of all that we have, the challenges that she has, the bottom line, her strength is what she hears. So a lab partner reading, or if the lab manual is given before, so maybe record the lab manual. Maybe she herself reads it and records her own voice and plays it back so that she can be more familiar using that method by which she learns to hear what the instructions are. Bringing what Linton's suggestion is, probably do mini steps. Maybe if it's possible, maybe try and do small things at home where she says, okay, step one, I do this first. Step two, I do this. Maybe things that she can do, create something, make something, so that she's used to, and as Ava said, become more comfortable, building her confidence in doing small things, so that when she comes to the lab, she doesn't feel as if she is in a totally different world. But that's a very important tool that students who hear and learn best from hearing. I've been telling my students, if you're doing a test, just read quietly to yourself so you can hear your own voice. And one of the ways in which I give that advice, or why I give that advice, I say to the students, when you're in a test, do you hear my voice? And they will tell you to. Yes, they hear your voice. They hear somewhere, Mr. O. They hear, what you call it, Samuel, right? So they hear Mr. O's voice in their head. Such learners are usually auditory, and they hear your voice now. They can literally recall what was said because they're hearing your voice in their heads. So I would say to students, because I am perturbed at students who, when they're reading an instruction and the instruction says, with the aid of diagrams, explain how. And the students will have completed the test exam, whatever it is, the assessment, and they would have handed up something that either has diagrams only or explanations in words only. And you're saying, it says, with the aid of diagrams, explain. And you inevitably get this response, I didn't see that. Have you ever had that experience with students? Instructions are there, written, we put bold, we underline, we change the font, we put it in italics, and they will come away from a test or from an exam and somehow overlook a part of what they were asked to do. And I'm sure you have had that experience, even in your own lives as students, when you were students. Anybody?
Kamisha from Dominica. I actually had that experience today with my human and social biology class. We had a test on respiration. And one of the questions was, with the aid of a diagram, explain gaseous exchange. And a number of the students during the test were calling me, so Miss, we have to draw and explain, or draw alone, or explain alone. I said, read the question slowly. With the aid of a diagram, what does that tell you? Miss, we have to draw. Explain, what does that tell you? We have to write something, and they're still asking like they're not sure. So I had to pause the exam and explain to them that they were supposed to not just draw, but write a brief explanation as well to explain gaseous exchange.
Right. It's as someone says, it's abstract. That's not something that they can feel and touch. Instructions are not things you can feel and touch. They're really abstract. It's like cooking. For a recipe, you really don't know what's going to happen, so you're kind of hesitant. You're unsure. You don't. It tells you what to do, but that unknown aspect of it sometimes can be a bit terrifying, for a better word, for students. But I find that students, I think that we have, pity that there isn't a survey that has been done. I would like to know, in our population, especially in the Caribbean, maybe in the world, what percentage of learners are supposed to be or are auditory? What percentage are more visual, etc.? Because I sense that learners, because maybe of the stimulation of videos, the television, etc., the video games, blah, 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 that learners, I think, are more predominantly auditory. I'm sorry, not auditory, more visual and kinesthetic. You must try that out in your own class. Find some kind of learning style inventory and just test your students one of these days. Just spend 20 minutes, give them an inventory and collect the information, and then at some other time you analyze it. It will be interesting to know what percentage of your students in your classes demonstrate the various learning styles. Because I just sense, I just feel that they're more kinesthetic and visual than they are auditory and verbal. And what was I want to say? Yeah, they're more kinesthetic and and I'm losing it. They're more kinesthetic and visual than they are read, write, and auditory. Right, that's what I want to say. Because I believe that with what's happening around them, that somehow maybe by socialization, maybe by the stimulation, how information is being received otherwise outside of the classroom, that those learning styles might be becoming over time more predominant. What do you think about it? That's my feeling, my perception. Anybody in Bermuda, would you like to, what do you think about that? That's the and making.
But I think it's an accurate statement because students now have access to the computer, they have their tablets, they have their phones, and this is basically where that's where they basically spend more of their time. So they see a lot of things, unlike compared to when I went to high school, it was more for lecture, this sort of thing, chalk and talk, and then we had all lab activities. But for some of the students, they can now go on YouTube to see certain things, or they want you to bring in, for example, doing circulation, they want you to bring a hat to the class, they want you to bring an eyeball to the class, so they could see and touch to learn.
Yeah.
My issue with that is for CXC, because these are the forms that I teach, CXC questions are not always suited for all the different learning categories. So how would they survive CXC in that case?
Right. Very good question. In fact, that's where we're heading to that, a response to that which you have just raised. Because we need to figure out if we can't necessarily teach whatever learning style, if we can't necessarily accommodate the learning styles when questions that are being asked are almost so abstract, basing on concepts and abstract theories, then how can we help our learners? How can we, as you say, not every topic will necessarily lend to us bringing an image, for us allowing them to do a practical activity, for us bringing something that's real for them to interact with. And one of the things we're going to be looking at, I think it was sent in the PowerPoint, is just simply ways in which we can try to assist our students in bringing something more real into the classroom, because we recognize that's a challenge. If they're not taking what we say and just by the mere words that we speak, they're not taking not accepting what we're saying by the mere calculations that we do. They're not accepting what we are, what the textbook says. They want to be a part of the action, and it's not all the time that we can do that. But let's just look at these points here that kind of speak to how we can create somehow a balanced learning environment, because that's what you're speaking to, Kamisha. They're talking about connecting theory to real life applications. It means that even though we can't necessarily bring everything into the classroom, whenever possible, We're going to do that, yes, but whenever possible, we're going to try and call upon what they already know, what they already have in their schema, and say, just like when that happens, this also, try and make some connection for them. Because ladies and gentlemen, the truth is, our students are not making those connections necessarily on their own. We have to connect those dots. Another thing we can do is balance concrete, the abstract information, with conceptual information. We have to balance the concrete with conceptual or abstract information. Try as much as possible to give examples. Every time we come with some concept that's not new to them, try as much as possible to give them specific examples. Combine visual with verbal communication. We established that when we have started this evening's class. Visual with verbal. So persons who spoke about, like Tracy, saying that have the students, their partner read parts of the instruction from the manual, recording information. I remember Ashley was suggesting for the person who was doing the music that they might record the sounds, match it with something visual. Kamisha also gave a similar suggestion. So combining visual with verbal communication. Using numerical examples with algebraic ones. So again, trying to use what they know, numbers, with this abstract concept of using algebra, doing algebra. Providing experimental observations before presenting general principles. Again, real time will allow, because we know our constraints of completing a syllabus. All of this can't be accommodated all of the time, but these are just some ways in which you can, where possible, infuse these ideas into your lessons. So we're not saying that every single lesson you want to accommodate every single learning style, but just look out for ways in which you can bridge the gap. Allow time for reflection and activities. This is so important. I'm now demanding in my class that when questions are asked, or when I pose something out there or new information, I tell students, do not ask any questions right now, like 30 seconds, delay. No questions are accommodated, and I don't want anyone to answer a question in the first 30 seconds. And the reason I'm doing that, I notice, and I'm sure you do too, that students who are quick on the mark, quick off the mark, don't say what to answer all the time. And it doesn't allow persons who need time to reflect, to think on the question posed, or to think on the information given. Just a slight delay. And I'm trying to get my students to say, okay, no one responds now, just listen. Tell me what you think, and I will tell you when to let me know what you think. Because I find that, for one, even the students who are shouting out answers or trying to answer first, sometimes they themselves aren't getting it right. And so they need really time to reflect so that their responses are meaningful, that they're thought about it. So this one, I'm belaboring this one because I think it's important. Provide opportunities for group work. As we know, sometimes group work is not the very best thing. Some persons don't pull their weight, but it also allows them to listen to each other. And finally, it's a provide logical flow of work. Show the connection to other disciplines and everyday life situation. What we're doing is just connecting the dots. So logical flow of work. Some persons need timetables. What are we doing tomorrow? Can I let them know ahead? If they can read before, let them know ahead. Work in some kind of systematic way. That's already organized by our syllabus. But don't leave out the fact that if you're doing HSB, talk about what happens in physics if you know that there is a relationship. If we're doing something in chemistry and you know it has some impact in biology that they're doing, bring it in so that they can start seeing the connection. Is there another one there? No. Alright. So we have spent more than 2/3 of our class talking about learning styles. There are some persons who think that this is all hogwash. They think that really no, that there's no empirical proof to this concept of learning style. They think that persons really just prefer to learn things in a particular way. And I've always noted how many persons of us here in our classes right now, in this class, Dominica, Bermuda, St. Lucia, when you have received your latest phone, how many read the manual?
How do you what?
How many, if you have received a phone, your latest phone, the phone that, assuming you have a cell phone, your latest phone, how many of you actually used read the manual to figure out how to use your phone?
Well,
The manual.
you don't need to if you continue to buy the same kind of software, but like if you go from one platform to another platform, you might. So like if you have Apple and you're going over to Android or vice versa, then you might need the booklet to navigate yourself quickly. But otherwise, it kind of trends on similar processors.
Right. And that's true. You're familiar with it. And for your own phone, there's asking though about your own phone, that your latest phone, did you use a manual to learn how to use your latest phone? Did you rely on reading from cover to cover how to use your own latest phone?
I don't think so. I don't think people do that again. I think unless you don't encounter a problem, then you go and look for the page where you have problem, then you go and just try and sort it out. But people normally don't read back to back. No, just read it on
No.
your own. Or you
Right.
ask your children, because they're smarter than you anyhow.
Ouch. But you're right. So if you think about it, for us as scientists, we have done that. We have, as Ashley quite rightly said, you're familiar with it. That's easy stuff. The criticisms to learning styles cannot impinge on that. That the truth is that persons will probably acquire information based on their experiences, based on what they prefer doing. Very few people are reading a manual now just to learn to use a phone. Some persons might use a manual for something else. And so the question that comes up is, are learning styles really worth all of this effort? Here are some of the criticisms I think I sent this article to you by Pashner and others. It says learning styles, concepts, and evidence. And one of the things that this group of researchers was crying out for is, where is the evidence? Show me the evidence that learning styles really have an important role to play in the classroom. And these were some of the reasons why they decided that it's maybe not be all that. It says there's an inadequate empirical evidence to support the claims of teaching to learning styles. Not that the learning styles don't exist, but do we need to accommodate them? That's what they're saying. It's not based on any graded scores, and the classification of persons is according really to groups. They think that learning style seems to be more preference rather than an ability. So it's not about, all in all, I can only learn visually at all times, or I can only learn by hearing at all times. They don't think that that is what's the truth. They think that learning styles, one, is a preference, that everybody really has all a mixture of it, as Jason had said earlier on, and that they think that people have different learning types and learning styles over the different ages and stages of life. And that it has been used, this whole concept of learning style has been used in really very few cultures. So then, you know how it works. Persons with the money and who have the time and have the researchers, they do the research, they bring this to the fore. And he suggested, or Kashner and his group is suggesting that the information that's out there on learning style really doesn't cover the continent, so to speak. Doesn't cover all cultures. It might be coming from out of North America or Europe. And these are really some real challenges to the idea, not of learning styles, but the need to teach to learning styles. What do you think about that? Sorry, Jason, go ahead.
Oh, no problem. I was just gonna ask when we were talking about Forbes models and stuff.
I don't hear you.
It's like an echo. Sorry.
Go ahead now.
I was just wondering if Kolb was basing his studies for empirical evidence, or if he was just
Right. Well, they made their observations, but not the empirical evidence in terms of specific data. It doesn't seem so. It seems as if it's more just observations. And humanities tend to be more relying on qualitative stuff rather than quantitative stuff. And that's what Kashner was saying, that there isn't any real numerical data to support what they're claiming, that if we don't accommodate these learning styles in our classrooms, that our students will fail. Kashner isn't saying that there isn't learning styles that exist. They're just thinking that there really isn't a need to try and accommodate for them in our classes. After all, we spent all evening talking about learning styles, now I'm saying that, hey, there are some criticisms to it. And that's what you think about the criticisms.
I think it makes sense. I think what you're saying, but I was going to say, like, even if it wasn't necessarily based on ability, if it was based on socialization or culture, then it's still a part of the classroom environment that needs to be taken into consideration, even if it is just a preference. You know, I still think it's important to take that into consideration, what's my student's preference, because that's going to help them to acquire the information. But then I was also thinking, you're more likely to prefer something that is in line with your abilities. So, I mean, I don't know if that makes sense. Like, at least for me, I think I'm a visual learner, so I prefer to learn to get information visually.
Right.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, no, that makes perfect sense. Because regardless, we can see, as you were saying, there's no evidence to support the claims to teaching to the learning styles. But we're not disputing the fact that people learn differently. Because it notices that people differ in their learning type over time and over situations. So we're not disputing the existence of the learning style. So you're making a very important point, Jason, that the fact is they exist. And the fact that they preferentially or by ability or one impacting the other, that at some point there are some persons who are just not going to get it. You know, depending on what it is that what interventions we're doing in the classroom. Anybody else would like to give their opinion on this?
Kamisha from Dominica.
Yes,
well, I figure every theory that somebody comes up with, there will be somebody against it. But honestly, I think the criticisms are, to me personally, they make no sense, because just like how you have people with different personalities, you have people who learn differently. And if you spend any time in a class, you will realize that no one student will learn the same thing the same way.
Right.
That's just my view.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. That's in fact that's why I asked the question, because I suspect that you base your responses to these criticisms based on your own experiences. You know, you'll be talking to a student like somewhere, and you're explaining, and then you grab a bit of paper, grab a pen, and then you start drawing, you start to use some illustrations, and then voila, they get more clarity. But just speaking to the students, it was ringing a bell. But then you start to convert what you're saying into an image. Sorry, someone speaking? Okay, right. So you convert what you're saying into an image, and the two things now make the learner be more receptive to what they have learned. Now it's interesting that Kamisha spoke about personalities, because I introduced this section on reflecting on our temperaments, because I think if we're doing the sociology of science teaching, we need to be aware that students, yes, they learn differently, but like ourselves, we have different temperaments. And I came across this, it's kind of um, poor image here right now, but you will have seen it in the PowerPoint. But just to introduce this, if you have never been introduced to this before, basically there are 4 different temperament types. And in our classrooms, we have students exhibiting these different temperaments. Temperaments are a little bit different from personality. Temperament seems to speak more to who you are at the core of the person that you are, while personality sometimes can be a little bit modified, or so they say, based on what's happening to you externally. But you have 4 basic groups. Let's quickly. Choleric, sanguine, phlegmatic, and melancholic. And basically, your choleric usually is the person who they say is usually in charge. Bosses tend to be choleric. So if you look at some of the characteristics, they're dominating, directing, they get the job done. They're task oriented, they have power and control, that's moving through. They lose control if they're being taken advantage of. So they tend to be angry people sometimes. They're sarcastic, they love challenges, or they're motivated by challenges, freedom, power, etc. The sanguine, so it says elephant, strong, firm, or movable. Another temperament is the sanguine, and they're using the metaphor of the butterfly. Keywords to describe the sanguine: influencing and interactive. Their basic aim, they just want to have fun. Priority, interactions. They seek popularity and recognition. How do they basically operate? They're enthusiastic, they're impulsive, they're reactive. Their greatest fear, the other one is the greatest fear of losing control or being taken advantage of. While the sanguine, the greatest fear is nobody don't like them. That's their greatest fear, that no one will like them. Under pressure, they're superficial, inconsistent. The greatest motivation is people. Now, if you think about this, in your classroom, I'm not going to the next 2 yet. In your classroom, you will have students who are like this. They want to get the job done. You have some who will be asking, when is lunchtime? When are we soon finished? You have those who, they will never tell students, be quiet, or don't do this, or missaid this, or said that, because they're fearful of losing friends. But you have other students, the choleric, who take control. You put them in a group, they're the ones who are starting, to just take the responsibility of doing stuff. Remember, their basic aim for the cleric is to get the job done. The basic aim for those who are sanguine is to have fun. So in your classroom, you'll have these dynamics working in addition to the different learning styles. Let's go over to the other side. The phlegmatic, and the metaphor being used is the word the turtle. And we already can get a picture of the turtle. Keyword: supporting and stabilizing. Basic aim: don't want to do anything. Let's get it. They take it easy. So they want the easiest route out. So they will ask, sir, do we have to do this? Can't we just do this? They want, they don't want to have to work hard. Their priority is kind of similar. So they're sanguine, they want to have relationships, they want to interact with people, friends. They seek harmony, so they're the peacemakers. Their basic style, they are controlled, disciplined, kind of low-key, neither angry or taking control, neither are they the butterflies. The greatest fear is instability and confrontation. Under pressure, they're submissive, indecisive, but they hold grudges. They don't forget. Their motivation is to be appreciated. They like time to adjust. They want to be given time. If you push them, you won't get anything out of them. That's a turtle. The phlegmatics. Again, you will have these students in your classroom. And while you are presenting your information, while you're doing the labs, while you're doing an activity, while you're planning another field trip, you're going to have the ones who want to get the job done, the ones who really not very interested in it, the others who sit down and let everyone get it, be busy about it. That's the phlegmatic, they take it easy. And then we can't leave out the melancholics, the beaver. Keywords, they're cautious. They comply. Basic aim to get it right. Their priority, like the choleric, is task-oriented. They seek order, accuracy. They want to know what is to be done, when it's to be done, in what way should it be done. Basic style, how they operate normally, they're very logical, they're precise, they hold it to a T, you said so and so. Their greatest fear, because they want to get it right, they're afraid to get it wrong. So they're fearful of imperfection or being embarrassed. Under pressure, because they don't want to feel embarrassed, they will pass the buck. They will be the ones who say, well, it's because of something else why things not going right in their way. So they're critical. And they pass the buck. And the greatest motivation is being given time. If you give them time, they will deliver the right thing. If you have given them a task, they don't at the last minute change things. They want exactly what needs to be done. I throw this in because I think it will help us to understand, one, first of all, ourselves even better, if you have never been exposed to this information, and two, to understand our students, why sometimes you get resistance, why sometimes students find something really exciting, they're running with it, and another time the class doesn't seem to be clicking the way you think it would have. Because yes, in your classroom, this kind of classification of the temperaments, usually they think of adults, but I see them already emerging, obviously, because if it's who you are to the core, who you are as a person, you'll be exhibiting them as you mature and as you are growing. So I thought I would share this with the class because I think it's also important as we look at how students learn or how we learn. What do you think of this kind of information, even from yourself first? Do you see yourself and you can be a mixture. So you can be partly one and partly another, I'm not going to go into that, but you do have mixtures of the temperament. So one might not be solely this, but you can be choleric in one area, but phlegmatic in something else. Well, really phlegmatic, but you can be melancholic in something else. The choleric and the phlegmatic seems to be opposites. I don't think that they will ever be existing together. But anyway, what do you think of this? Anybody just looking at it? Let me give you a few more minutes or so, then you must reflect, and I'm pushing, all right? But do you see yourself in any of these?
Samuel?
Yes, Samuel.
I'm seeing myself more athletic because I like to take things easy and low key. Even if I'm in charge, I'll not let people know I'm in charge. And
Even if you're in charge, what? I didn't get that
I
time.
will not let people know I'm in charge.
Okay.
So I like this low key level. Yeah, I'm seeing more of myself in that. Take
Okay.
things easy.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the best will come. I don't like to rush into things generally.
Right.
And I'm very friendly. No matter what, to me, friends are friends.
So
I
that's
think I'm
a challenge here. Okay, okay. Thanks for your honesty and your transparency. Anybody else? Are you seeing yourself in any of these? Sorry, who's speaking and I'm not hearing you clearly? Right, what's the speaker? I'm not quite sure where it is, but we're getting feedback now.
Some traits of one and some of another.
Right,
Because I'm seeing, well, for me, I think I'm a mixture of the choleric and melancholic.
right.
And when it comes to tasks, if you tell me to do A, I will do A and do not divert from A. But however, I tend to have
Sorry, we're losing all of that last part though. After A doing A, don't divert from A, but something happened in the movements there. I'm sorry, Kanisha. Can you shift them the mic? I don't know what it is that's happening today. It's a stress sound management day.
Okay, I said that some of my friends think that I have a dominating personality.
Really?
But
Yes.
then also, I know if I'm given a task to do that, I will stick to that task and get it done. And I really don't like sudden changes, honestly. I will get a little bit aggravated if you tell me to do one thing and then 2 minutes later tell me to do something else and 2 minutes out. That aggravates me.
Okay. All right. Thank you once again for sharing and your transparency. Anybody else would like to take the dive? If you see yourself in any of this.
I feel like I'm mostly education. I feel I'm more melancholic, but I can see other aspects of it that I feel like I'm well with. I would say mainly melancholic.
Okay. All right. Now, the thing about this is that as we are the teachers, as we are in charge of our students, of our wards, the children, that we have to also be aware of ourselves. Because what happens in the classroom, I remember Jason had said at the very first class, he said that someone else had also shared a similar sentiment, that the success or the sociology of what happens in the class, it really kind of it revolves around the teacher. So if you think about it, if we can even look at how we learn, how we teach, where we are, and how our temperaments, that's not personality, and how our temperaments can influence the sociology, the climate of the classroom, if we can understand that process, then we can probably help our students. We can make adjustments in our teaching. We can make adjustments into how we present information so that the environment, the climate is conducive for the students to learn. So if you think about it, let me just make some scenarios. that I'm in a classroom and I'm choleric. I want to get the job done, my lesson plan. I want to make sure that the students finish the labs on time. I'm in control. I don't want anybody to mess with that. That classroom is going to be pretty uptight. I'm going to be so controlling of that class. I need to recognize that even though that's my natural tendency, I have to let go of the reins of it. I have to allow the students, I can't keep the control all the time. I need to allow the students to express, ask questions. If someone disrupts the class, that I don't lose control and think that they're trying to take over the class. I have to be watchful over that. If I am melancholic, if I want again, in a way like the clerk wants to not only just get the job done, I want to get it right. I want order. It must be logical, no embarrassment, and I want to stick to the task. If something disrupts that, I can lose my cool equally in the classroom as a melancholy because things are out of order. Something that shouldn't have happened has happened. It wasn't predicted. I'm just bringing these up because I think that we need to be very reflective of who we are and what we bring to the table in our science classroom. Because we're not just bringing to the table our methodologies, making sure that we cater to the learning styles as required, but that we're bringing ourselves to the table. And we need to ensure that as we get to understand who we are, what we're bringing to the table, that we ensure that we, monitor, self-monitor, where our strengths are, we continue to reinforce that. Where our weaknesses are, we try to bring to strengthen or to overcome those weaknesses. So as I said, I thought that introducing this would be an interesting way for one to look at ourselves and two to see if we can identify students that we want to label them, but then you can see what's going on in the classroom as well. And this was just a little bit more on that. All right. So, whoops, I shouldn't have done that, right? I need to. Okay. I'm always closing the wrong thing first. All right. Okay, right. Wonderful. So, I'll send you a little bit more information about the learning styles, as if you haven't already received quite a bit. But I recognize that I do have something about different methodologies, things that you can use in your classroom, just to try and add to what you already are doing, in case you're thinking of how can I, meet the needs. I omitted to send that document, which has a lot of interactive techniques that you can use to try and cater to the various learning styles. All right. So, how did we find today's class? Is there anything that was, you think, relevant to your own teaching? Something that you received today that you can run away with and implement, use, reflect on, and say, okay, I'm going to try this? Is there anything that anybody has, found useful from today's class?
Yes, Samuel.
Yes, Samuel.
In class, a student just like to listen to the class alone, and when he's listening, he doesn't write. Deep down me, I have a problem with that because I cannot just wait. Like when he's listening, he doesn't want to write, and sometimes class have to go. So I think I'll be more tolerant with his attitude in class. Because to me, it's like, this guy lazy or what? But he always want to listen. Sometimes he closes his eyes. I say, are you sleeping? Saying, no, I'm listening. So I think, I'll try to understand him more in the class. It's like, he doesn't write, just listen, close his eyes and say, are you sleeping? No, I'm listening. So I think with this now, we're more conscious of exercise and see how I can deal with him.
Well, a question to ask is, how do you find his performance? Or she, I wasn't quite sure. How do you find the student's performance? Do you think that when you make a given assessment or classwork, how is the student producing results? What are the results like?
His result is not too good
Mm,
because he doesn't write.
right,
So when he gets home, there's nothing to study, to practice.
right, right.
But I was told by his mom that was one of the best students in primary school days.
Yes, and then I find some students like that. Just today, I think a student was saying, I don't want to write while you're talking because I want to hear. And for that student, they're having difficulty talking, with me talking, and trying to make the notes at the same time. And I thought about it and I said, I'm going to make the point, give the explanations, and I'm saying, okay, everyone, write in your own words, give them a minute, something like that. For persons who have not caught up with their notes as I am speaking, because I'm not giving notes, I'm giving explanations. I'm using a diary or whatever, and so they're really making or creating their own. So you could try that with him, because just today I had a similar situation, and I decided that for that student, I'm going to just give a little break and just say, okay, write down the most important points that you have heard. If you're not really making your own notes, this is your time to write the most important points. And I'm compelling them to do that because, as you rightly say, Samuel, the class would have ended, they would have gone away, there isn't anything to record for them when they were ready to study. So try that with him. But I find that peculiar because I have a couple students like that in Samuel. They won't write notes. They're listening. But I'm concerned because they can't remember everything from every class for 2 weeks, for 2 days.
You're right.
So try that. Give them an opportunity for those students. Then you give them the unity checks and you realize some people are making notes and you say, okay, everyone, I want you to write, and you just say, 2 minutes to write, the most important points that you have, something like that. So you're trying to pin them down. So you're not talking anymore, and he doesn't feel that he's competing with having to listen to you and to write at the same time. Let's give them little breaks. We call them in education, we call them like 1 minute papers. Give the students 1 minute to write down their thoughts.
Okay.
So you can try that.
Thanks.
Thank you for sharing. Anybody else? Something that has sparked your interest and you want to do something with it. You want to do something with this information that you have been exposed to today.
I was just thinking about the discussion you were just having with Samuel. I was wondering, is it possible to like print off an outline of the notes and give them that so that they don't have to actually take notes, they just listen, and if they want to, they can make on the outline? I don't know if that's possible, but that might help.
Right. Like now, there are a set of resources being brought into play, but what do you think about that, Samuel? Do you hear Jason? Oh, Jason was suggesting that for students, if possible, to print an outline of the notes, and so they can make maybe small jottings, but they might feel comfortable with some information right there, so that they don't feel that they're losing out. So give them an outline of the notes, and then as you explain, then they write, just add to what is already there. If you could try that, Sandra, that kind of use of resources will be available to you. You're just making that suggestion.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jason.
You're welcome.
So, anybody else? I'm afraid to say so. Last call. Anything that you think you're going to take and use?
I think being more aware of the different learning styles, um, you should get better academic performance because you should be able to cater for at least two or three of them in your lesson. And I think from today's discussion, I'm more aware, and I think we as teachers sometimes take it for granted that you talk, whatever you do, the children will learn. You don't really sometimes make a deliberate effort to say, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. You just assume that things are going to run smoothly and everybody understands, and you're not sure. So I think if you forget about the syllabus for a while and have some ways and means of working around it. For example, for me, I know at my school, it's mainly boys, and based on literature, um, they they are kind of behind the girls, so you have to make a deliberate effort to gear your lesson towards their interests. So in science, I would start the CXC syllabus in Form 3, get them going from Form 2 or whatever, get them interested, give them a lot of practicals because they'll want to do when they go outside, they'll want to do it. So spark their interest and then, give them the work in the form, start from 3. So they have more time and hopefully they'll pass. But I think being aware of what you do in the classroom, really making a conscious effort, really reflecting on your practices, um, will help a lot. Because, excuse me, even what Jason mentioned about the outline, what I did or normally do, sometimes I forget, is when I do my work plan, I will take out the resources and strategies and whatever and give the students photocopy it and they pay 25 cents so they know what is coming next, what is coming next week, and they say, okay, miss, and I also tell them where to find the information. So those who are interested, not everybody will really care, they'll get a head start. So they say, miss, we're doing irrigation this week. Yes, yes, yes. And then if you're doing irrigation, I also try and take them outside on the farm to say this is what irrigation is, watering the plants, this is what drainage is. So you tie in your theory with your practical. It's a lot of planning, yes, but I think experience is the best teacher because when you start out, you're not sure what to do. You want results, yes, but um, sometimes I say the students are still going to fail whether we finish the syllabus or not, but at the same time, we get them to learn something. They can take with them life changing. And for me, I try to have them practice at home because agriculture lends itself to that for them to do the practical aspect, bring a little bowl, something to start a plant to grow. They'll see the process from germination goes on and on. So I think we really have to be reflective and really go to purpose, deliberate. I mean, sometimes I get tired. Yes, you're frustrated. You don't get what you want. I don't have my own room. I don't have a lack of resources. You have to be begging and stuff like that. But as teachers, if we realize our value, and I don't, sorry for the long speech, I don't look at the students as an individual. I look at the whole because a lot of them in my school, they come from impoverished neighborhoods, family cannot afford. So I think, when I think of teach one person, it's like a household because they will now probably able to go and raise chickens to help their family or plant a tomato plant, tree or some plant, sorry, or do something to help supplement their family. So if you think not as a child but as a whole, as a family, as a community, I think you will be a bit more aware of what's going on and make a great impact in their lives, not only academics. I myself don't really strive all the time for academic, even though it's important. But once I've taken a child from point A to B or C, whether the test says so or not, I think we'd have accomplished a lot. Holistic development. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Kamisha. It really is important.
It's Ava. I'm happy that we getting mixed up. Tamisha, that's okay.
Oh. So, I'm calling my mind. It's Ava that's talking. Relevant kind of information is into it. But you made a very important point, and I will encourage everyone that yes, some of this might be old stuff, been there, done that, but to me, the greatest learning of all of these classes is if we can reflect on ourselves, what we are doing, in light of what we are being exposed to, and if we can make any adjustments, if we need to make any adjustments, if we're on the right track already, what can we do to improve? And that's what we want to achieve. And once again, I thank you for your keen participation. There are some challenges today with the speakers and feedback and things. I hope that we won't have that next week. But have a safe trip or journey to wherever your boats are. And God's willing, see you next week. And as usual, you can look out for, as I said, something more to kind of augment what you already have, relearning styles, or to kind of meet them a little bit more specifically, dead on, and stuff for next week's class.
Okay.
All right. God bless you.
Thank you.
Okay.